What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Jedi In Exile. We are still on that Bad Batch hype, this time with episode 11, Metamorphosis, and banger of an episode. We're going to jump straight into what happened. Brian, talk to me about your thoughts.
Yeah, really liked this episode. I was saying just before we started filming that compared to the last few episodes, this was a really good, clean episode. So first of all, it starts obviously with this ship, which has been like attacked. You see the clone commando, which straight away was like, oh my god, that is so effing cool. So you see him with like one of the electric staffs, and clearly you then see him like eaten by some kind of creature. So again, whenever I see like a commando, it just gives me prequel vibes. It's like, yes, we're back, like
back in the glory days.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, it was really cool. And this episode really for me was just this kind of, for me, should be, this is what the Bad Batch series is going to be kind of lead into and going to be about. I feel like we're over halfway now. We've got another 5 episodes left now, and I feel like this one was really like almost the start of the end of the series to building up to like this big
it's the beginning
finale.
of the end.
So clearly we know that they've got the cloner from Camino there who like obviously cloned Omega, and it's clearly got some kind of, I don't know whether it's a soft spot for her, but obviously the Empire now knows that the key to getting her cooperation is to find Omega, and maybe like obviously there being some kind of trade-off there. You've got the Kaminoan Prime Minister there, who always felt that the Empire wouldn't do anything to Camino because they needed the cloners. And also for me as well, this kind of, I don't know whether we're going to see this in a long game from Filoni, but it seems to me like this whole cloning process is like the start of the story of the Mandalorian. And with Grogu, because clearly we know from Series 1, the end of Series 1 and parts of Series 2 of The Mandalorian, is that they're trying to extract Grogu's blood. I think they're trying to replicate the Force sensitivity into other creatures.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether as well, with Kenobi, with Fortress Inquisitorius, where they keep the bodies like preserved of all the
like
Force
that weird
users,
amber stuff.
Yeah, and like the Force users they've had. I don't know whether this is now some kind of, again, we talk about Filoni's spider web. I don't know whether this is all like kind of keyed into that. So I'm just really excited to see where this series goes now, because we've spoke about it on the last few episodes. We felt like Crosshair, whatever was going on with him and
that's
the Bad
got
Batch,
now weave back in.
Yeah, well, we felt that was what maybe the series was leading to, and I'm not quite sure whether it is leading to that now. I really feel like the whole cloning process, I feel like the Bad Batch are now going to be more involved with the Empire. We haven't really seen a lot of that.
They were trying
in
to keep
this
their
series.
distance, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas now I feel like they're obviously the Empire are hunting for them. I feel like it's now going to be a battle of the Bad Batch against the Empire kind of thing. So no, I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out from here. Even though the episode was only, I mean, it was 30 minutes runtime, it said, from start to finish. Well, obviously, we know we can knock a few minutes off that. It was a longer episode, so around 25 minutes. And I thought, actually, no, it was a really good episode. I liked how the main cloner, like, obviously, they've destroyed Camino now, and the cloning facility's there, and it, like, all hinges on this, like, one guy. And again, we talk about linking it in, you talk, another 30, 40 years' time, you've got the Emperor being cloned on Exegol. So it's like, there's such a link, maybe. This cloning process, like, is just so key to, like, the whole Star Wars story going forward now.
Yeah, and I think for me, this episode delivered for a few reasons. One, our main criticism not only was the whole absence of Crosshair, but it was also that there was this massive setup at the end of season 1 with this kind of like the scene of them arriving at the new cloning like facility, and then we saw a little bit of that kind of early on in this series, just hinted at a little bit. And I had said to you, I feel like that's what's missing. I feel like they dealt with that at the start, and then they kind of went, let's just park that and go do some other stuff.
Yeah.
And now we're circling back. And I agree with you. I think that this is us leading now into the business end of the series, what everything's been building to.
Yeah.
And this is where I really hope that some of our, I'm going to say criticisms, But some of our kind of comments around filler episodes and stuff, this is where I hope we're proven wrong, because I feel like this is where they need to deliver on the whole.
We need an arc
if,
now, don't
yeah,
we?
If there are little breadcrumbs here that have been left in these filler episodes, this is where they need to start joining the dots and bring it all together.
Yeah, because I feel like obviously I assume we'll see Rex and Echo again in the series, because obviously they sent the cloning data to them, didn't they, to see. So I feel like hopefully I wouldn't even mind just seeing an episode of Rex and Echo, whether it's on Coruscant, whether it's somewhere else, like, because that to me isn't. It's a standalone episode, but it's not just filler, because you know that's leading to, like, well, the wider Star Wars universe and the wider Star Wars story. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. It'd be nice to see an actual arc come, like, you know, full circle, what we've seen, like these breadcrumbs you say. I think we need to have that now.
I think one of the things that's going to be interesting is we know that somewhere along the lines this is building to Rex, obviously, has the links with Ahsoka still because of what we know happens in Rebels. Yeah. We know that he's eventually going to disappear off and go into kind of exile. So again, it's going to be interesting to see whether we start to see some of those building blocks of something must happen, because at the moment he's happy fighting the fight and doing all of that kind of stuff. So
maybe that is a case of where maybe he loses Echo and then loses like complete faith in everything. Because like you say, when we meet him in Rebels, like he's just and he's almost like a bit of a kind of hermit, and not in terms of like in terms of Ben Kenobi, like on Tatooine on his own. He's obviously got a couple of troops with him, but they've cut themselves off from the galaxy. So yeah, definitely really interested to see where it
excited
goes.
to see, and like us, we always say Filoni's got a plan, right? All of this stuff that's going on with the Mandalorian, or been going on with the Mandalorian, and all of the stuff that is happening with all of this, like, it's all going to link in some way, because he's going to have.
I like the whole, like, that even though this is an animated show, it's still a really serious part of the Star Wars universe. Like, obviously, Clone Wars up to about season 3/season 4. You didn't really need to have watched any of those.
No, they were standalone stories, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. And I realised that obviously since Disney's taken the Star Wars franchise over, that there's been a lot more shows that you do need to watch now to get everything. But at the time, Clone Wars was almost like we're giving the fans just some more story. You know, we're giving them some filler.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Whereas now, I feel like these shows, like The Bad Batch, if you want to maybe understand the Mandalorian in future, or understand where things started, you kind of need to watch it. So to watch The Bad Batch, you kind of need to have watched a fair bit of Clone Wars, and at least the last series of Clone Wars. So I feel like obviously they're doing this on purpose. They link it all together so that you have to watch everything.
Well, it's just you know that if somebody hasn't necessarily watched Clone Wars but watched Bad Batch, seeing all the hype online around like the Zillo Beast,
exactly.
Like people immediately have gone, what is a Zillo Beast? Why are people hyped about a Zillo Beast? And then it takes you straight back to like that 2-episode arc, right?
I was going to say, so it was episodes 18 and 19, I think, of Series 2 that we got introduced to the Zillo Beast. And I remember watching it back then. And obviously the episode ended with Palpatine handing the clone of new orders. And she's like, what? We're going to try and clone this animal. And that's kind of it. And I expected at the time to maybe have revisited that in the Clone Wars and seen something come to fruition on that. Because it was such a cool, couple of episodes when it basically attacks Coruscant and gets out. It was interesting to see that obviously they've altered it in this episode, haven't they? So
like
that
genetically modified.
Yeah, so they've made it basically stronger. They've made it was like feasting on electric. So the electricity that powered this village.
Yeah, they'd weaponized it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, again, it just harks back. It's like the Leonardo DiCaprio. You see it and you're like that, like you're seeing it and you're like, oh my god, it's a Clone Wars throwback again. Like, they're just so good at doing these.
And this is one of those where I don't know if it was season 2 or not. I'll take your word for it. It was season 2. I'm rubbish at that sort of thing, but like
I saw it online. I won't. This wasn't me. Like, oh, that was episode 1819.
If it was season 2 of Clone Wars, that's Filoni in season 2 of his first kind of venture into the Star Wars universe, and he's immediately gone, we'll do this, we'll give the orders at the end that we're going to try and clone this thing, and then he's gone, oh guys, we're writing Bad Batch, see that thing that I did back in season 2 of Clone Wars, we're bringing it back.
What's really interesting as well is that Dave Filoni at this point, this is going to be probably 07, 08, we're still a number of years away from Disney buying the franchise So whether he, obviously he's behind the scenes, whether he knew that Disney eventually were going to come in and there would be more content, I don't feel like at that point...
Well, they cancelled Clone Wars, didn't
Yeah,
they?
well, they did, and they wouldn't have been certain, I think, that there were going to be more shows made, because obviously when Disney took over, Disney's big announcement was, we're buying Star Wars for like $5 billion, we're going to make films. And it was very much a case of there's going to be a new trilogy out. That was, obviously, it blew everybody's minds, and that it was going to be the sequel trilogy, what we now know as. There wasn't really a big appeal for, we're going to make all these TV shows. So I feel like the model that Netflix has, I think obviously Disney have caught onto that and thought, well, actually, we can get more content in a TV series.
And it's also the way that people consume content. Don't get me wrong, people do still go to the cinema to watch big blockbusters, but people consume content completely differently.
And I think shows I think Game of Thrones is probably a big influence on that as well, because Game of Thrones has got, again, so much content in that you wouldn't be able to fit into a film.
No.
And so it doesn't do it justice. You need a 10-episode series. And so I think we're really lucky with that. But again, Dave Filoni wouldn't have known that. So it's... And you see that throughout the Clone Wars episodes. And I know we're kind of going off on a tangent now. But the Clone Wars is full of things that are dropped in. Senator Tucci appears in a handful of episodes in Clone Wars throughout the series, yet is in 2 or 3 in 2 Bad Batch episodes and is an important figure. And again, from the arc of the Clone Wars, and so it's interesting because I wonder throughout the creative process whether Filoni, when he's done Clone Wars, he's thinking, I know I can use this, or whether when he's making Bad Batch, he's like, what can I get from Clone Wars? What can I bring back? It's just interesting. We need to get him on the pod. Dave Filoni, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, get in touch. Drop me a DM. We'll keep it on the down low. But we've got some questions, my man.
We have.
Get yourself in your cowboy hat down here.
If you guys have enjoyed hearing us talk about that, obviously we shot off on a tangent, but if you want to hear us talk about a whole host of other Star Wars things, check out some of our other awesome content right here. And other than that, guys, we will see you all really, really soon in the next one.
May the Force be with you all.